our own communities, and just some spiritual and artistic encouragement that you could leave with today. So I'd like to start off by giving an opportunity to each of the panelists to introduce themselves. Let's start with Rob.
Rob Ayala. I'm a visual artist, president of Fantasy and Color Artist Collective.
Christy Ayala, Vice President of Fantasy and Color, and also a visual artist.
Lacresha Berry, aka Berry, singer, songwriter, educator, performer. Yeah.
Nkumu Katalay, I'm an orator, artist, and also social activist. I have a group called the Lifelong Project, and I also have a dance program called Afro-Congolese Dance.
Thank you. So I'll open this question up to each of you, but as an artist and an artist administrator, I often find it difficult when we know that our arts institutions, particularly of color, are being underfunded and defunded, and that resources are hard to come by, to pull on a source of power and figure out what sustains me in the work that I do, and figuring out how to advocate for myself. So my first question to you guys would be, what sustains you in your work? Anybody?
Okay, I'll start.
I'm gonna say I'll talk a lot, so I'll just wait.
Okay. And just to clarify, you mean as far as what keeps me going in general? Okay. I thought you meant like financially and stuff. To be honest with you, it's just the drive, and really it's all passion, because like we do art shows, we do group art shows for emerging artists. We've been doing this primarily in Harlem for the last 3 years. And you know, we started off very small. Sometimes it wasn't hard to do. A lot of times it's hard to do, but let's say like even putting together a show like that, it could be stressful. Then you do it, and you bring all these visual artists, and you see how proud they are. You're giving them this platform that doesn't really exist. And honestly, that's what gives us the fuel. It's just really just knowing that we're doing something that's needed, knowing that if people like us aren't doing it, then there's some people. Everybody can't go to a performing arts school. Everybody are not going to have those opportunities to be creative and be an artist, and we're giving people that. So to make it short, I would just say, just the feeling that we get from and the feedback we get from what we're doing is what keeps us pushing forward.
Yeah, I would say in addition to that, just more practical things. I really agree with that, what Rob is saying about, when I hear feedback about performances, that keeps me going, because sometimes, you're creating these things in your home, and my dog doesn't really care either way, but I have to put it in front of human people to see how it plays and how it kind of inspires. So I think that's one aspect of what sustains me. I think another part of my aspect that sustains me is making sure that I am practicing self-care. And I don't want to just throw that word around very loosely, but making sure the right foods and the energies in my body, making sure that I'm moving my body, making sure that I'm taking care of myself and going to sleep, making sure that I'm able to sustain my own health, so that then I'm able to perform on stages beyond Harlem, beyond New York City, and being able to do that on a regular basis. So I think that's one of the practical ways that I sustain my art as well. Yep.
For me, I could take the question in two ways. With the word sustain, so I like what my brother said in the beginning as well, like the drive. I look at it in a general spectrum, because I look within my vision, which is to highlight the contribution of Congolese culture and world history. Because that vision is bigger than me, so I'm a tool within the vision, so the drive must go. On sustain, as joining the point, Miss Berry.
I'm going to say, me. Come on, stop it. Stop these games out here.
Joining a point, what really sustained me is really our community as well, because I'm an immigrant, youngster. I have no means or mechanism. All I know, our people gotta connect. So I stand up every day to see where I can find them, and that's really what drives me.
Okay, so thank you for sharing that. the narrative of people of color being underserved, undervalued, disenfranchised is one that we're all familiar with, right? And we're not trying to speak that into existence anymore. So I wanted to see if you guys could speak a little bit on how you're trying to take charge of the narrative and change that narrative within the work that you do. Anybody can start.
Being part of the Fantasy and Color Collective, just giving that platform to artists is a way that we're doing it as far as, doing the shows and finding creative ways to put events together so artists could come and show their work or perform or, show their products, like t-shirts and stuff like that. So, I'm glad that we have that platform to do that, not just in Harlem, but within NYC.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, also, I think which is very important with us, I think we know with art, it can sometimes have I don't know if bougie is the right word, but sometimes it's like
elite,
this yellow tape kind of thing. You have to be good enough, or you have the taste makers, or I like to say gatekeepers, controlling who gets to be an artist. And to be honest with you, like that's what we're all about, knocking that down. With our events, it's not really about that. It's really about the platform of expression. So if you just started painting tomorrow, we want you to come in, and you might be right next to somebody who's been doing it for 10 years. And I think for us, I think that's the main thing that's important, because then now you're giving a voice to the voiceless. And not only that, how there's people, man, when it comes to art, you'd be surprised. People are so private, and it's just hard. It's a vulnerable thing.
Yeah.
And if you know any visual artists, there's some really special personalities as far as just socially sometimes. So just imagine, it could be the hardest thing sometimes. So just to kind of like give them that platform and give them, like they just get so comfortable, and now you just made a monster. You just made them so inspired. They're in this room with people that they may even feel are more advanced than them, or better, for lack of another word. But now you made a monster. So imagine if we just, from scratch, you're an artist, come do it. You sing, come do it. Not let's see if you're good or not. You might not be good the first time, but guess what? A few months down the line, you just got better. You're not the best artist right now. Now come in this room with some people who are better, and guarantee you're gonna be better in a few months. So that's the biggest thing. Yellow tape and gatekeepers is what I think we need to get rid of when it comes to creative forms of expression.
Yeah, I think for me, I was typecast as a mother type and the funny type in college. And I was even told by a college professor that I play mammy parts really well. Wow. And I'm from Kentucky, so, racism was very in your face. So from that point at 20 years old, I'm like 20. Why are you telling me I should play mothers at 20, And so at 20 years old, I decided that, I have to write my own work. And even if it's not where, Broadway might not accept it, I know that if I don't do it, then I'm going to be stuck, recycling the same roles that are written for us for years and years and years. Not to say that you shouldn't audition, but if I audition, I want that part to be written for me specifically. And also when I write shows, I don't want it to be focused around a man and woman relationship per se. I want it to be around like self-discovery, because a lot of my work has been around like me discovering who I am as a person. But oftentimes especially back, when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, you had conversations and shows around women up under men and worshiping them and trying to get their attention. And for me as an educator, everything is purposeful. And I'm not saying that I don't need a man, but what I am saying is we can share this together. It doesn't have to be one uplifting the other. Both of us can do it at the same time. And I feel like when I create my own stories, I'm able to control my narrative. I'm able to say, yes, I am a certain size, or yes, I have a voice that might not be considered feminine, or yes, I have this story about Harriet Tubman, but I'm also rapping. There are things that we could push the envelope on, and that's what I choose to do as an educator. And also just as simple as I'm going to wear my natural hair and be unapologetic about it. You know what I'm saying? In front of my students. And that could be a source of inspiration. And I don't think students don't have a voice. I just think they don't have platforms to share their voices. So I think for us as educators is to let them speak, and then we'll guide their path. But their path that they already know is just us guiding, saying that, try this, try this, try this, and you figure out which one is going to work for you. So I think for me, that's what the narrative, pushing the envelope and, changing the narrative for me is like, or, what I'm doing.
For me, I had to be very watchful of symbolism for a long time. Some of this symbolism reflects in the cross-generational audience that I made sure that I had. This idea of having the elder mix with the young, because there was a tool, because the second aspect of my vision is to train leaders and to establish both social and professional networking. So how can we establish leaders when in our audience we have an outlier where there's no mentorship automatically being created? So for me, it was essential that even in building my audience, it was always about bridging gaps in a certain way, or creating a bridge overall, because I had to analyze that I came in America where I find the African diaspora, my people who've been here centuries, and I saw in Latin America, I saw in the Caribbean, and it was a need for me to understand the struggle that my people here face and the level of understanding they require in order to, the vocabulary that they put already in the system in order to understand how to phrase the struggle. Because I also saw the lack of certain vocabulary in the African struggle. So my vision comes in to find a way to bridge the gap. So I'm using music in aesthetic as a way to unify our people. So at times, even as I'm performing, I will emphasize on the connection we have with the 6A, how I saw the 6A becoming a 4/4 rhythm and a lot of rhythm in America, and started to understand why some of the codes are hidden in the secret. So trying to pull it out and to make them very, very simple for the normal ears to hear, so that unity becomes something very, very easy to create through the music. So it's been something that I've been working on. It does bring people together. There's still a lot more ways to go. And we actually, symbolically, we're in the right time, because yes, we can see this appearance in a mainstream level of the aesthetic of the Afro diaspora aesthetic. But I like it, even though everybody don't understand it fully, because we have our elder, like the young man over there with the hat. I've seen him many places. He's already aesthetically well-groomed all the time, each time I see him. But today we're seeing that in the mainstream. But at least what he's doing is bringing a bunch of us together. So the time is really right where we start to now niche a conversation to bridge those gaps. So my vision is also facilitating that one way or another, because I've tried, like I said, to push my audience to be an audience that includes this notion of mentor, old generation and young, old and young, old and young.
That's actually good.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody in between.
And everybody in between.
So that's a perfect transition, because my next question was, how do you envision and incorporate intergenerational connections within your working on your platforms?
I think for me, I start with the youth first, because they're going to grow up and we're going to be old and decrepit, and not decrepit, but old and older, just older. You're not decrepit, but older. And so I just want to make sure that the ones who are leading us as 20 years from now are going to have some type of semblance of understanding of where they come from. And also just being able to, I love the intergenerational idea of just making sure that we stay connected with our elders, you know what I'm saying? And always make sure that, that we have connection. I know in other countries, elders are revered as, kings and queens. And I think here we've kind of lost a little sight of that. So I think that would be really helpful. But I think as an educator, I focus on the young people. And just a quick anecdote, a quick story. I had a student who I loved her. She was 10 years old. I taught her in 5th grade. And she grew up, she went to Amherst College. She was like, I'm so proud of her. She's like, I knew she was gonna be great, but she was in college and said, Miss Berry, we want to bring you back and I want you to perform at our college. So like she's 21, you know, like 11 years later, and she hired her teacher to come back and perform for her college audience. So I think,
for that.
yeah. And I think that's pretty amazing. I was taken aback, like, you know, I had to hold back tears. I was like, okay, first of all, I'm getting older, and then second, oh my gosh. And I think, you know, as long as we're planting the seeds in the younger people, that's just where I focus my attention on. Even though my work is across the spectrum, I really focus on the people that are, you know, the younger folks, because, you know, as much as we try to, you know, bash them and say they have mumble rap, they are very interested they're interested. They really are. There are a lot of students who are telling me about the Wu-Tang Clan. And I'm like, how you know about that? That's when I was a kid. So there are things that they know that we don't know because we don't ask, or we don't care to ask because of how they present themselves, but they're inquisitive and they want to know. So I think that's kind of like where bridging the gap for me has helped. But I love older people too. So, you know, I'll perform everywhere, anywhere, and have my kids do it. Because you know what, one other thing I want to say too is, older people, like my grandma, she claps for everything. So it's always a good feeling. Seriously. Like, oh my gosh, the babies are singing. I gave my chorus kids, we went to a nursing home, and the fact that they were just presenting something in front of the elder people, it was just a joy. And I feel like we've missed that simplicity of just having that connection, that, you know, it was just beautiful. It was just beautiful. So that's one way that I do that.
Rob and Chris?
So I think as far as, I think mixing the ages are very important, but to be honest, I think it's very separated as far as art is concerned. I think what would help is, for example, I don't know, like I've been a part of shows where, and I'm not a baby, I'm in my 30s, but if you're around artists who are like,
we all are.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But sometimes in art, I might as well be 20 compared to people who might be artists in their 50s and 60s who've been doing it long. And sometimes, to be honest, I think they kind of look at younger artists as, I don't know, like this urban art quote thing they have, which I think is not good, because it's just a label. And at the end of the day, I'm from Harlem, they might be from Harlem. We all urban, if you want to say that. But I think we need to have more art events when you have older artists and younger artists all showing together, not a separate thing. Not this is the wine and the cracker show, and this is a young show with music. We have to find a way to merge it. I've done over 70 shows with young people. I'm not lying, not one fight. Packed houses of people around art, around music. The thing that is missing is the bridge between the older art community. That's why the things that you guys set up here, that what you're trying to do, I'm very happy to hear that, because I don't see it. We've been doing it in Harlem independently. I'm saying 3 years. I'm saying over 70 shows. Not 7, it's over 70 shows. We've been doing this in the community. And now I can finally say, I used to go, nobody discovered us, but now I can say that changed. At least Harlem Arts Alliance have us here and we're talking. But that's the problem right there. We shouldn't be doing something like that for 3 years and undiscovered. Having 100 people every 2 weeks in an event. This is the youth. This is Harlem. This is the new Renaissance. They're right there. They're right there. They're right there. And at the end of the day, I mean, let's be real. When it comes, no offense, like even with me, somebody who's 20, I look at them, damn, they have all the potential in the world. More than me, they get just because of that. So if some of these older artists, I'm talking about the OGs, we're not looking at them, when it comes to art, they would be kings to us. Somebody who's 60 years old who's been painting forever. To sit, I'm telling you, it would work. But I have not seen it. I have not seen shows. I see either this kind of show, where it's older, it's the classic, it's that, or it's the young underground scene. If we merge that, it's a problem. And I can help merge it.
I mean, it's a good problem.
Oh yeah, good problem. Sorry,
good problem.
So what I can even add, in a capitalist system, you have this notion of really separating.
Right.
Because the
Right.
capitalist does that in order to control each fraction.
Yes.
But nonetheless, it's really our responsibility
Right.
to find a way and the political mechanism to bridge those gaps, right? If the elders are not coming, create a way where you create platform to really go and invite them 1 time, 2 time, 3 time, 4 time, until they relent and come. It's just a matter of following. For me, my way of doing it is focus on the material, because I realize I'm young, but I don't really think in mainstream type of thinking, because on a cultural level, I'm thinking of. So we've been taught to go to the urban settings so we can leave the rural settings where we were really trained culturally almost everywhere. Most intellectual, if you even study in history, came from those rural areas. But now we became blue-collar workers by being stuffed in the cities, for some of us who grew up in the city. So we don't have those very basic way of connecting. So my thing was always to go from the basics so I can mix the materials. Like, even though I'm young, still grew up in Kinshasa, I can play urban music all day, but I want to see the validity of bringing traditional music and coining the words that are called contemporary, which means contemporary traditional, because the duality is very constant. So finding a way to note that duality clearly, because sometimes the youth might connect to the urban aspect of it, but your elder might connect to how the urban transition or connect, that trajectory between that and the tradition. Why the tradition becomes important, because that's what they see. You really have all the values needed. Because when the elder comes, I might be famous today, I still have to bow and say hello. And sometimes mainstream idea doesn't carry those things. So how can you keep that vivid in your music? Because, my band has enough good material to make 100,000 people move, because I know what I'm representing, the Congo. But nonetheless, if my elders are in that place, you better give them a nice place to sit down. Because it's not because I'm moving 100,000 people that I'll see my elders, they're not being treated properly, because I might have to step in. So continuously trying to find a way your material really meet the two.
And I also want to say too, clap it up for that. I also feel like too that we worship youth. We do in the society. Youth is heralded as something that we want to always strive to be, and there's nothing wrong with getting older. It's okay to get older. It is okay to age and become a person that's experienced in the world. It is okay to do so. And I think because we worship it so much that we forget that there are people here that are beyond their younger days, and also youth is a state of mind. So, a lot of the people that I know, my grandmother, she's 87 or 86 years old, and she looks 50, she looks 55. So I think a lot of even the physical age that we put on ourselves, a lot of that is just a physical age, because at the end of the day, especially if you're taking care of yourself, right, and you're vivid and you're alive at 80, you're not old. You're still living, you're experiencing life, and you'll be surprised what people who are 85, 75, 65 connect with, as well as with those who are 25, 30, 45, 50, whatever. So I think that's also something that you have to take in consideration, because we do worship youth so much. We got these serums, we got the creams and the potions. I'm like, it's okay to have a wrinkle. It's fine. You know what I'm saying? It's part of growth. It's like, that's what makes us us. You know what I mean? And as long as we're authentic to what we're doing, I do think that can reach more than just one type of person.
We only watch for the capitalists because of what he set up to set us apart from each other.
Right.
Because they set up mechanisms
Exactly.
that can make us
It's all
apart.
under capitalism. It's
We
all
are
under.
collective.
Yeah.
That's really what our art should promote, the collective that we are.
Yeah.
That was our last question, and just as a last word, I would like each of the panelists to speak a word of power to our community. So I'll start. My word of power is community. So community.
Mine is collective. Collective.
Empowerment.
Unity.
I felt like y'all had y'all words ready.
We freestyling right here.
They took the gold
Freestyling.
ones. I'm gonna say freedom.
Can we get a round of applause?
Yeah.
And for our last portion of the event this evening, we have one, I believe, is Robin Stevens here? Yes, she'd like to make an announcement as well as Event Gallagher. Because we're so grateful for them giving us this space.